Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for chapters 7 through 9 of Twilight.
Adrian Reads Twilight.
The stunning text by Stephanie Meyer. And I gotta say, I'm enjoying it so far.
I'm glad you are. I'm glad you're having this moment. Is this good for you?
Oh, this is great for me.
I'm glad this is good for you.
Do you need a cigarette?
No. Would you like me to recap these?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Chapter 7 through 9.
Yes.
Twilight. Bella does some independent investigating and believes that Edward may be a vampire. She goes on a shopping trip with friends out of town where she wanders off and pursued by some shady men.
Oh no.
And Edward rescues her. And over dinner and a drive home, she questions Edward's supernatural abilities, and we learn that maybe, just maybe, he's a mind-reading vegetarian vampire.
Oh no.
Adrian, where do you want to start with this?
Those are literally all the notes you took this time, aren't they?
I don't need anything else to talk about this.
What do you mean you don't? So you've got it all memorized?
No, I actually have notes in the book this time. I got some dog ears, so I'm ready to go.
Okay. Is there any place you would like to start?
I would like to start with the beginning of chapter 8. Page 152.
Okay.
Jess drove faster than the chief, so we made it to Port Angeles by 4. It had been a while since I'd had a girls' night out, and the estrogen rush was invigorating. We listened to whiny rock songs while Jessica jabbered on about the boys we hung out with. That's really all you need. This is an example where we lose Bella's narration. This is not Bella speaking any longer. This is Stephanie Meyer. It is a difficult task to write as a character, because we are getting this narration directly from Bella. This is one point where that illusion is broken, and it is cringy.
Point to me the moment you feel it's broken.
At no point in time, how old is Bella? 17?
Yes.
Have I ever met a 17-year-old woman who said, it had been a while since I'd had a girls' night out, and the estrogen rush was invigorating. Furthermore, no 17-year-old woman refers to the music they listen to as, we listen to whiny rock songs. This is an older Stephanie Meyers reminiscing of a time and trying to write it from Bella's perspective. But this is not Bella speaking. This is Stephanie Meyer. And that is incredibly off-putting to me.
I think the problem is you've never been a 17-year-old girl.
You don't know that.
17-year-old girls are pretty advanced.
You think so?
Compared to 17-year-old boys. And I think that they have a meta-narrative on their own life.
Okay.
Which is impressive. Probably beyond that which you have. I think that 17-year-old girls are more analytic about things than is Dalton.
Let me pump the brakes. Let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
I've never met a person, regardless of age or gender, who at any point has said, it was an invigorating estrogen rush, and I listened to whiny rock music the entire time.
I think you don't know enough women.
That is someone trying to write as a 17-year-old woman. That is someone trying to write a character. That is not something a character will say.
I think that you are insinuating your patriarchal view on this text.
I like to think you sit around during the week and this is the moment you look forward to. You just enjoy this. Also, I just had a panic attack because I thought your earphones were my microphone and you were going to hit me. It's fine. Moving on.
Dalton, with your voice, if that were your microphone, it would probably put you at medium level.
You're welcome. I'm notoriously loud.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is off-putting to me. That is removing me from the story here, and it's not good. It is not good writing. It completely ruins the illusion. And I'm lost at that point. I don't like that.
I don't know how you can say that.
Okay. So tell me what was great about Twilight, Adrian. What did you just love about this particular reading?
I will say there seemed to... So a little bit of this I had to speed read to get caught up. And I will say you had mentioned before we shot that you had a part where the text lost itself.
Yes.
I swear, in the haunches of my mind, there is a place during this reading, these 3 chapters, where Stephanie Meyer starts writing in the third person instead of the first.
Really?
And I went back after I finished everything and tried to find it, and I couldn't find it. So maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that happens somewhere in here.
Okay. I did not mark that. I would like to point out on page 138, nary a good 14 pages before what I just mentioned, we get that first inkling of Stephanie Myers is just being Stephanie Myers. This is not Bella's narration anymore. Which point she says, he told me he was the villain. No one refers to anyone as the villain.
He referred to himself as the villain.
Did he?
Yeah.
Are we sure he said villain for sure?
Villain or bad guy? I thought
he was the bad guy. He was not the villain.
I think he may have said villain. Because she even comments on how he speaks like he's from the 18th century or 17th century.
She does mention that, which is fair. I do not recall him referring to himself as the villain. If this is in the text as he told me he was the villain and he never said I am the villain, then this is again Stephanie Myers just writing as Stephanie Myers. I am writing a character, the character is the villain. Because I am 99% sure Edward Cullen referred to himself as the bad guy. Dangerous, but never villain.
I think you're just looking for ways to tear this down because I love it.
From 195, this is the big quote. This is the one that is always heralded as the quote of the novel. About 3 things I was absolutely positive.
3.
First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how potent that part might be, that thirsted for my blood.
No.
And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. That is cringeworthy.
Irrevocably, by the way.
Did I say irrevocably?
Yeah.
I'm keeping it. That is cringeworthy.
That's gorgeous writing.
That is awful.
So tell me a more authentic 17-year-old girl voice.
That is awful.
Okay.
If I'm reading this as Bella Swan's diary, if there is a diary notation that says, January 17th, this would have been 2010, because I'm old. I can buy that. But nobody says that. That is terrible. That is cringy. That is awful.
This is literally first person from a 17-year-old girl.
This is the quote. This is the big quote that they sell this novel with. Somehow that is appetizing.
Okay, so I'm not going to let you get away with this. You're trying to just tear this down and tear this down and tear this down. But on page 130, when she's running through the woods, I recognize the green light of the forest. Where else have we seen a green light in literature?
Oh, is this a Gatsby reference?
Yes.
Oh my! Look
Yes,
at that! I
it is.
even wrote, is this a Gatsby reference?
Cross literary references like all good literature.
Dare we say at some point Suzanne Collins... oh my. This is why we should not read multiple young adult books at the same time.
I'm dying.
Dare I say Stephanie Myers at some point realized that color could be used as a literary mechanism. Because after she mentions the green light of the forest, she continues to tell me the standard color of everything around her.
But she hyphenates it with something that's just utterly mind-blowing, that doesn't make any sense. But 139, the first mention of the title of the book. And I knew in that I had my answer. I didn't know if there ever was a choice, really. I was already in too deep. Now that I knew, if I knew, I could do nothing about my frightening secret. Because when I thought of him, of his voice, his hypnotic eyes, the magnetic force of his personality, I'm really identifying with this guy, I wanted nothing more than to be with him right now. Even if, but I couldn't think of it. Not here, alone in the darkening forest, not while the rain made it dim as twilight under the canopy and pattered like footsteps across the matted earthen floor. I shivered and rose quickly from my place of concealment, worried that somehow the path would have disappeared in the rain. First mention of the title of the book. When she's alone in the forest, and there is an outside force making it seem like nighttime, and she's wet. That's literature, my friend. That is literature.
I hate you so much. Anyway, we'll go back to your Gatsby reference. This not only the green light of the forest, I could hear the waves crashing against the rocks somewhere nearby, and I knew that if I found the ocean, these are all very Gatsby-esque references.
And very Freudian.
Very Freudian. I can't roll that
Yeah,
on
you went
today.
German.
I went full German on that, excuse me. Oh, God, I had a point. I'm sorry. This is just awful. I hate you so much, but I had a point. I was going to get there. Please talk for a second.
Was it about how good this is?
No, it was not about how good this is.
Was it about the darkness in the forest?
It was about the forest, though. I will give credit where credit is due. This is something we have mentioned many times this channel. The forest is the big bad. The forest is the big bad.
It's the big mystery.
The big mystery from the early stages of literature.
Wherein mightn't we find our sexuality?
Shut up. So in the forest, there's danger in the forest. And we even get a point where Edward says, hey, be careful out in the woods at night. Sometimes I'm not the most dangerous thing out there.
You just went full Midwest again.
Did I?
Outin'?
You might not go out and
be careful out in them.
Woodsins. I don't know how else to you go with this. But anyway, he does point out to her that, don't go into the forest. Sometimes the creatures in the forest are more dangerous than I am. This is definitely a literary trope here. This is something that we've come to terms with. The forest will always signify mystery, and it's not a good place to be in the forest.
Mystery and danger and loss of civilization.
There you go.
What does civilization tell us about our sexuality?
What is that?
It's not good.
Okay.
Gotta hide it.
All right.
Maybe you go into the woods to discover it. Also, we've talked a little bit about Freud.
Okay.
Yes? So we talked about Freud. And we talked about sexuality.
We did.
And we talked about this dangerous fella she's fallen in love with, right? This dangerous, overbearing fella she's falling in love with. And immediately after realizing that she is dangerously in love with a dangerous fella who is overbearing, we get this. Charlie has just finished breakfast. Her father, on 141, into 142. He smiled back, his brown eyes crinkling around the edges. When Charlie smiled, it was easier to see why he and my mother had jumped too quickly into an early marriage. Most of the young romantic he'd been in those days had faded before I'd known him as the curly brown hair. I'd known him as the curly brown hair, the same color, if not the same texture as mine, had dwindled slowly, revealing more and more of the shiny skin of his forehead. But when he smiled, I could see a little bit of the man who had run away with Renee when she was just 2 years older than I was now. That is weird, isn't it? That is really weird. She's romanticizing her father after having just realized her sexual attraction to a man who's much older than her and is overbearing and protective of her in the way a father might be, despite the fact that her father, who is overbearing and protective, had been absent most of her life. And she's even reminiscing about the fact that his head looks more like a penis than it ever has.
Fair statement.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I have been talking a little bit about vampires very recently, a couple weeks ago here on How to Read Books Good.
Okay.
Had a little segment on vampires, and we are getting some good vampire stuff going on here. Vampires stemming from the Victorian age, where sexuality had to be repressed. We couldn't talk about sex in literature. Today you can talk about whatever you want. It's fine. There's an Amazon marketplace for you. But we are still getting a little bit of inklings of that, where there is a attraction to Edward, but there is a danger to that attraction, because honestly, Bella is Edward's primary source of food. There's a problem here. We are getting that idea of the vampire being that repressed sexual drive. Vampires themselves, always very suave, older gentlemen, always pursuing the younger, usually virginal female. And we also have the simple notion of the bite. That is very phallic, where my sharp pointed fangs will penetrate your skin.
Is this why your voice goes up several octaves when you're around me?
Why?
Because you're nervous that I'm such a predator?
Is that what it is?
The vampire?
That's how I defend myself. If I just make loud squeaking noises, people leave me alone. But anyway, we do get some good vampire literature in this. I'm not going to argue that. But then we get things like this. From 134. This is when she is researching vampires.
On dial-up.
On dial-up. Only 3 entries really caught my attention. The Romanian Vericolasi, which I really just wanted to pronounce all these and butcher them. Excuse me. A powerful undead being, blah, blah, blah. The Slovak Nalapsi, a creature so fast and strong it can master an entire village, blah, blah, blah. And one other, the Strigoni Benefici. About this last, there was only one brief sentence, which is a very awkward, clunky sentence that I hate. Strigoni Benefici, an Italian vampire, said to be on the side of goodness, and a mortal enemy of all evil vampires. even italicized for us. Can we not paint any form of picture? Do we have to just give the reader the information? I bet I know what Edward's going to be. I bet that's going to sneak up on us.
But this, in fairness, this happens often in paranormal texts.
Okay.
This happened throughout X-Files. I mean, how often was
I wasn't old enough to watch X-Files.
Mulder or Scully sitting in a computer with the black screen and the green letters, and they'd look up something, and it would be just this bald-faced definition. And what it does normally is it is to the negative. So the thing that would stand out would be something haunting or frightening that would then impend fear in your reader or viewer. Okay. Unfortunately, this goes the other direction.
Okay.
Where it's something to be looked forward to. I've got several small things to touch on. If that is that your last?
Please carry on.
I've got several small things to touch on, and then what I want to make the main thrust of this video. On 149, no, Dad, but I'm helping them find dresses. You know, giving them constructive criticism. I wouldn't have to explain this to a woman. Sexist. 165. He parallel parked against the curb, in a space I would have thought much too small for the Volvo. But he slid effortlessly in one try.
Freud.
What color is the Volvo? Did you catch it?
Is it silver?
It is silver.
It is silver.
How do you kill a werewolf?
Silver. That's actually a nice little point. Credit where credit is due, Stephanie Myers. I'm sure you didn't notice because this is the point in the chat or the book where you're just like, oh, colors are fun. Red, brown, wolf, silver, Volvo, green, forest.
Yeah, and then 194, shut up, Dalton, we're talking about good stuff. The phone rang suddenly, startling me. I yanked it off the hook. Oh my God. The days when there were no cell phones.
Yeah, we just dated this book, didn't we?
Yeah.
We just did.
Between that and the dial-up.
Yeah, we dated this book.
She saved everything on a floppy disk that she found on the intraweb.
How old is this book? When was the publishing date? 2005.
2005.
My God.
Yeah.
14 years ago.
So here's the thing I want to talk about. And my opinion on this evolved during the reading of these chapters.
Okay.
So Jane Austen and Shakespeare and non-required reading are all mentioned in this, right?
Yes.
She's always talking about something literary. However, she is the non-readerist, bookish person I've ever read, right?
Okay.
We don't get the fact that she's sort of bookish. We just show her reading these things. And they're not easy texts.
Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice.
Right. And then it struck me when the girls were all together on their journey, and one of them says, Tyler says he's taking you to prom. Have you ever had someone lie about you in that way?
Not that I can recall, but I would have a story that would fit this.
I don't know how many women I slept with that I never slept with in high school.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know how many, all sorts of those sorts of stories, right?
Good old rumors.
Good old rumors. This is just a high school drama with vampires thrown in.
Yes.
But it's downplayed so much as garbage, right?
Okay.
But I think this is a half-baked attempt at writing a Jane Austen type text. Jane Austen was just your don't get me wrong, it's literature. It's high literature. But when you read the story and what's going on, it's high school drama between people.
Okay.
What this is basically the first Sense and Sensibilities and Sea Monsters. This is the first Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. This is Emma and Vampires and Werewolves. Is this all that different than those texts?
I am not a very learned Jane Austen reader because I don't enjoy Jane Austen.
Have you read any Jane Austen?
Not
Completed.
entirely,
Okay.
no. But to my base knowledge of Jane Austen novels, I am willing to grant you that is worth looking into.
It sort of makes me wonder on the tip of my tongue right now, you know how some of these weird young adult texts or retellings of great literary masterpieces. I wonder if this is a Jane Austen grafting. You've got two suitors for one young girl who has her friends, and she's got weirdo guys on the periphery. You know?
It's a good point. It really is.
That's what it is.
Okay.
This is not just for all the people that want to tear this down. This is not just schlock. I will say it's not the best written, but there are dynamics between characters here, aren't there?
Oh, of course there's dynamics between characters.
Do you have it that's difficult to pull off? First off, that's difficult to pull off. How many character dynamics were there between people in John Green?
Character dynamics between people?
Between people.
Your main overarching one, that's about it.
That's about it. Everyone in John Green is your lead girl, your lead boy, and then the other girls
supplementary characters.
But they're... So if your lead girl is 100%... We'll put your lead character at 100% character capacity.
Okay.
Your secondary girls are just your lead girl minus 25%. Your secondary boys are just your lead boy minus 25% of the intelligence and wittiness. They're all the same characters.
Okay.
They're just lesser degrees of that character. These people are all different.
Okay.
Edward is different than Jacob, right? And that dynamic between... I'm looking forward to getting back to the dynamic between Bella... What is Bella's full name?
Isabella Swan.
No, it's Belle. I'm looking forward to getting back to that dynamic between Bella and Jacob. Because I want to see if the relationship between Bella and Jacob starts to look like the way Edward treats Bella. If Bella starts to treat Jacob the way Edward treats Bella, there's going to be more here than anyone is ever willing to give it credit for. Because of the age difference there. And because of the assumed, the privilege of these characters, right?
Okay.
So I think what's going on here is everyone hates on Twilight because it's in vogue to hate on Twilight. This is, first off, it's not worse than Harry Potter.
Okay.
Second off, there are definitive strengths of this text above John Green.
Okay.
Now, you're going to like John Green more because they're edgy and they're smoking cigarettes. They've got some menthols in their back pocket, man.
Okay.
This is not all that different than any of those. This is in league with those texts. You can say it's not, but you're saying it's not based on your saltiness. You're saying it's not because you don't think it's cool to like this. You're saying it not because from time to time there are extremely awkward sentences in here. You know Bella, don't you? Don't you?
She's a very stereotypical character.
Fine.
There is no flair.
She's not that stereotypical.
You don't think so?
Okay, so...
She's the quiet, reserved, awkward new girl.
So she's stereotypical, but there are hints of other stereotypes thrown in. She also is gravitating towards a social group, isn't she? That doesn't often happen. She's also the apple of everyone's eye, isn't she?
Okay.
Normally she's not. Normally she's the apple of one strange guy's eye when she's that stereotype, isn't she? Everybody wants some time with Bella.
Okay.
Everybody wants some time with Bella. Normally, that girl is not popular the first day of class. Normally, that girl doesn't drive a big-ass truck. You know, there are... The girl who drives the big-ass truck is the one who's trying out for wrestling this winter.
Okay.
So there's all... I think what's throwing people off is there are all sorts of stereotypes thrown into this, into the same characters. But they're from diverging stereotypes.
Okay.
They're converging on a single character.
I'm not sure I agree with you yet. I think it is a fair assessment and our job for what we do here to read this with an open mind and see how that develops. I will grant you that. And I do like your Jane Austen idea. I do. I would really like to look into that a little bit more. I think there is a lot of worth and merit there. This is still terrible.
So what I'm going to do is I have ruined Harry Potter for how many people on the internet?
Plenty.
I am going to make Twilight for just that many more.
Are you? Is that the Adrian mission for this?
I am going to convert you to hashtag Team Adrian.
Oh, we should get Team Adrian, Team Dalton.
People are already Team Daltoning, which is stupid.
Look at me.
By the way.
I would Team Dalton any day of the week. Anyway. Sorry, my eyes were on fire during that conversation. Like, I kind of had to zone out for a second here. I do like your Jane Austen arguments. I am willing to grant you that we should research into this a little bit on that. I am willing to read this continuously with an open mind, with what you said, and to see how that develops. Because there is some good dynamic here. There is, between characters. We'll give it that. I am not sure at this point if that sliver of merit outweighs how terrible this is and how terribly written this is.
You're going to have to keep piling on the terribleness because I just don't see it compared to other texts. Okay. Other texts that I am with which I am putting this in league.
Okay. Well, we're going to get there. That's the point of this. 3 chapters a week, baby, until it's done. And honestly, it's going to go a lot faster than Harry Potter. We may have got a little ambitious. I think we're about halfway through this text.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our bad.
Yeah, we're already 200 pages in. It's got... Is it 400 pages? 450 maybe?
Whoops. No big deal.
Oh, it's almost 500.
It's almost 500. So we got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But we'll continue forward with Adrian Reads Twilight. We will keep an open mind. And we'll give credit where credit is due. But by God, we're also going to call it. We're not going to pull any punches. We're going to call it. That's what we do.
Have I pulled punches?
That's what we do.
Have I pulled punches?
That's what we do.
Or am I just shitstorming?
This is Adrian Reads Twilight on Stripcover Lit. We will be back next week with chapters 10, 11, and 12 of Stephanie Meyer's Twilight. And if you'd like to help us create more great content like this here on Stripcover Lit, there's a link, as always, to our Patreon in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to help us carry along this journey of Adrian Reads Twilight.
And make sure you pick up your copy.
Read along with us. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you're feeling about this right now, because I just imagine these comments are going to be a fight. And I'm excited for it.
There's 4 books in this series.
Yes. No.